There we go, we're all seated now. Good afternoon, everyone. Some of you may recognize me already, but my name's Paula, and I'm the celebrant for today's ceremony. We're here in this beautiful space, in this community space, to honor our friend, mother, grandmother, wife, colleague, and friend, Melinda Sue Dempster. The Straighten Community Hall is located on the traditional unceded territory of the Samath Nation. The Samath people have been the caretakers of this land since time immemorial, and we hold them in gratitude for taking care of this beautiful space. May the love and the friendship that fill this room be a comfort for all our grieving hearts. And let the warmth that we share today give us the strength not only to mourn Melinda's passing, but also to celebrate her life. While we plan for today's ceremony to be a joyful remembrance of Melinda, it's important to recognize that grief isn't just a single moment. It's actually a journey. And since the months since Melinda passed, it's kind of given a lot of us time to begin our mourning. And one thing that we've really come to understand is that grief is really difficult because simultaneously we have to hold space for the times that we can laugh and joy and smile, all the while we're aching inside for our loss. I know it's really difficult. But another thing that we've learned is that sharing stories really helps with the grieving process. And so that's why we're here today. We're here with families and friends to share stories of Melinda that reflect the fun-loving, the charismatic, the hard-working, and of course the kind-hearted woman that we're here to celebrate. It's kind of weird. Melinda used to share cherished memories of her carefree days, riding horses, reading books out in the grass in the outback, and sharing family recipes in the kitchen. Rooted in the free-to-be family values, Melinda and her siblings each grew in their own direction. They share a love for the outdoors, a sense of duty to protect the environment, and a great enthusiasm for wholesome, tasty food. These shared mindsets unite them all, despite the fact that they all went in very differing directions. So Judy is here. Judy is Melinda's eldest sibling, and she's here to pay tribute to Melinda on behalf of her siblings.
Thanks, Paula. Hello. What a beautiful looking crowd. Yeah, such a surprise to see so many friends and family, colleagues. Melinda would be very happy to see you all here. As Paula said, my name is Judy. Whoop, I'll do this. And I'm Melinda's oldest sister, and she has 2 other sisters and a brother. It's great that you're all here to remember Melinda's life with us. I'm sure you have lots of beautiful memories and stories that you're telling each other at the moment, but I think I'm probably one of the few people who can say that I've known Melinda all my life. And I'd like to share 3 stories that I think depict Melinda and who she was when she was a little girl. The first story is full of sweetness. One Christmas Eve, Mom and some of us kids were waiting for Dad to come home from work and busily trying to get the last-minute gifts and details ready for Christmas morning. One of the jobs was to assemble a dollhouse kit and we were having a terrible time getting it to stay together. This was one of the jobs that Dad had promised that he would look after, but it was getting later and later, but still there was no Dad to be found. After much grumbling, the dollhouse was sort of crookedly assembled and put under the Christmas tree. And when Dad got home, needless to say, he was not very welcome in the house, so he sat alone outside on the doorstep, feeling pretty sorry for himself. Melinda, who was probably only 4 or 5 years old, crept out in the cold to sit with him and give him a big hug. Dad said that she was the only friend he had in the whole world, and that he would one day take her to Hawaii. Well, no, it didn't happen. Not with Dad, anyway. She didn't get to Hawaii with him. But that was just an example of how sweet Melinda was. And I think we all know that that carried on through her life. My second story about Melinda is about the boogeyman and gullibility. I'm not sure about later in life, but when she was younger, we could make Melinda believe almost anything. Michelle and I had a bedroom that we shared in the basement, and we really didn't want anybody to come down there and infringe on our territory. So we told our siblings that there was a boogeyman who lived in the basement. Corey and Sylvan didn't really care one way or the other about this. They just carried on with their life. But Melinda took it all to heart. One day, she did happen to be in the basement when at the same time we had a laundry chute. Mom threw a white sheet down the laundry chute, and it all billowed out. And Melinda ran up those stairs. I don't think her feet even touched the ground. And her eyes were as big as 2 saucers. And we didn't really have to worry about her being in the basement anymore. While Melinda was both sweet and gullible, there was something kind of odd about the way she felt, about how she belonged in our family. We would often see her quietly gazing out the window or looking a little fearful and bewildered at all the crazy activity in our household. We had a great-grandmother who was beyond boisterous, and she usually arrived in a noisy flurry, and our mom was often doing 3 or 4 projects all at once, and she encouraged all of us children to be our own individual people, which we all tried our best to do with exuberance and enthusiasm. In later years, I asked Melinda what she was so often looking at out the window. What she told me was rather sad, but also funny. She said she was waiting for her real family to come and rescue her from all the craziness. And she felt she didn't really belong in this family. Well, I can tell you now that in the last few months, I'm feeling a real hole right in the middle of the family. And I would truly like to be able to tell Melinda that she certainly does belong to us. Melinda has been loved and has returned this love to so many people in her life. Her colleagues, her dear friends, and her family have all been extremely important to her. She loved Amelia and her children, her grandchildren, without question, and gave them her time and wisdom wholeheartedly. Thankfully, she was able to enjoy many of her last years with Sheila, traveling, enjoying their beautiful home, and hosting many fun parties. When Melinda became ill, Sheila was by her side through everything and gave her all the support that she could have ever wished for. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Sheila for being such a loving and caring partner to my sister. Thank you. I made it without crying.
Thanks, Judy. And I may not make it without crying. Melinda and I have been friends for over 40 years. We met in our 20s as hairdressers. We specialized in color and texturizing services. And Melinda had just returned from L'Oreal in Paris, where she was sipping Dom Perignon and looking at the latest French Vogue collection. Yeah, that was all really shishi back then for us 20-somethings. And our connection was instant, bonding over industry experience, the love of travel, and of course our shared passion for learning and for teaching. We first met at a team building event organized by a local distributor. So you can imagine this 80s spectacle. Lots of neon, lots of frills, mall bangs hardened with hairspray, and there we were. Neither one of us really got into playing the game at all, and we really weren't really into the fashion scene. So her and I took off and went and sat in the outfield, barefoot and pregnant. And I knew right then that I wanted to be her friend. She wasn't afraid to step away from the in crowd. She would definitely step out and do whatever was true for her. She followed her instincts, not the crowd. Well, sitting in the grass barefoot and pregnant seems like a heck of a long time ago. We learned the ropes of motherhood together, making homemade baby food, sewing outfits, hating the endless laundry that came from cloth diapers, and we're seeking out the best classes to support our daughters in their growth and their development. And we quickly realized that there's absolutely no work-life balance when you work at a high-end demanding salon like we did. So Melinda often commented that, she really liked the people, but she really wanted to make more of an impact, more than a superficial impact anyways, on people's lives. So she contemplated her exit plan quietly, and when her parents moved to their place on St. Mary's Mountain, Melinda seized the opportunity to move to Mission and register for school. Determined to meet every requirement, she approached her studies with focus and dedication. Each new course sparked further enthusiasm, expanding her perspective on just how she could create a more meaningful and lasting impact on people. And as Melinda continued her studies, Blair, my daughter, and I would come out and stay with Amelia, because universities and elementary schools could never really seem to get their breaks on time or in sync. And we loved our time at Chateau Dempster, and that's what we called it. The girls and I would spend our day horseback riding or hiking, making crafts or delicious treats. In the evenings, Melinda and I would flip through cookbooks looking for healthy food recipes. Melinda really loved her cookbooks. Melinda encouraged my studies in herbal medicine, and she kindly let me practice my consultation skills, always offering very valuable, honest, and supportive feedback. We even planted a medicinal garden. I've never met anybody so excited to see a seed catalog as Melinda. So herbs and flowers grew at the Chateau Dempster, where naysayers said they would never grow. So I credit her tenacity and her green thumb for the success of that garden. And then years later, Melinda persuaded me to come and substitute teach in Mission, originally for 2 weeks, and then she convinced me to stay for a year and a half. Despite her own heavy workload, she generously mentored me in School District 75 systems and all the things at what would be considered an unorthodox school of Riverside. During that time, we tore up all the grass in her backyard because she had a vision, she had a dream of a garden that she wanted to have in the yard. And really proves that when Melinda put her mind to something, she would do anything to make it happen. And for those of you that remember, that garden was stunning. So I have countless memories that I could share in tribute to my dear friend. But I know that there's others that are eager to speak as well. So I just would like to share one final story as soon as I get my voice. Not that long ago, I went to visit Melinda when she was in Abbotsford. And I was prompting her with her memory, and I said, I still sing those songs to my grandsons that we sang to our kids when they were little. And Melinda whispered, "Sing to me." So in closing, I'd like to share the lyrics to what I think is Melinda's life anthem. The song, "I Feel Wonderful," seems to have inspired the way that she uplifted, encouraged, and empowered many people. I think you're wonderful. If we practice this phrase in the most honest way and find something special in someone each day, we'll lift up the world one heart at a time. It all starts with saying this one simple line, "I think you're wonderful." When each one of us feels important inside, loving and giving and glad we're alive, oh, what a difference we'd make in each day, all because someone decided to say, "I think you're wonderful." And I can't carry a note to save my life, but I sang her the chorus of this song every time I visited her after that, and it goes like this: "I think you're wonderful." When someone says that to me, I feel wonderful, as wonderful can be, and it makes me want to say the same thing to somebody new. Oh, by the way, I've been meaning to say, I think you're wonderful too. I'm going to really miss her wonderfulness. Okay. So Melinda was truly grateful for Mike and Mary, her wonderful parents. Their support enabled her to achieve her academic goals, as well as develop a social circle that mirrored her zest for life. Laurie McIntosh met Melinda shortly after she moved to Mission. She no doubt has many, many stories too. So Laurie, would you like to share your appreciation for Melinda's caring and outgoing personality? That was wonderful.
Hi, everybody. I know some of you, but I did meet Melinda when we both went to then now UFE, but UCFE, still college, University College then. And when I was thinking about what I would say today, there's one story that always comes to mind when I think about Melinda, and it was one of the last memories she remembered of us, so I thought I'd share it. The story of how I met Melinda is one that in many ways sums up our friendship and who she was. I met Melinda in Eric Davis's history class. I arrived as an excited, new, mature undergraduate and quickly took my seat, as it happens, beside Melinda. Also a mature undergraduate. And at the first break, I got up only to discover that I had sat in a wad of gum, which was now stuck to the back of my pants. Melinda saw what was happening, and with a grin and that confident yet playful voice she could have, said, "You have gum on your bum. Come with me." And with that, she whisked me off to the bathroom and said, "Stay put. and soon returned with ice cubes, which she proceeded to rub on the gum, which was on my bum. We had just met. I was skeptical. She was calm and confident and amused at my predicament. The gum came off. I was impressed, as I would be time and time again throughout the course of our 30-plus year friendship. In those early school years, we spent many a late night talking for hours on the phone, mostly writing our overdue history papers together. Sorry, Eric. I remember one night, it had to be 2 a.m, and there was an earthquake. All the stuff started rolling off my desk, and I was completely freaked out. And Melinda giggled and made a joke, and I don't remember what the joke was, but I was immediately calm because she was so unfazed by the fact that we had just had an earthquake. And then we just kind of carried on with our paper. And it was during these late night discussions that we developed a deep friendship, and our burgeoning feminist passions, which she would carry on, and our righteous outrage over gender stereotypes and the glaring absence of women in the things that we were studying. I remember a particular conversation about Chinese history and some, in retrospect, inappropriate comments she encouraged me to make in the class. And we often encouraged each other to share our critical insights in our classroom discussions with the kind of passion and bluster only new, and for those of you who teach, know this, relatively young undergraduate students can muster. 2 classes and you know all the things. I appreciate that I was only asked to come up with a snapshot of Melinda during our college years, because to try and summarize who she was as a person, as a friend, would be a daunting task. I reached out to some of our mutual friends from our time at UCFV and asked them to share their thoughts, and a common theme emerged in their memories of Melinda. She was, as one friend said, always the go-to person if you needed practical advice about nearly anything. Another said, the first thing that comes to mind for me is her laughter and her smile. She was the kind of person who could take an idea and put it into action. She made things happen. Indeed, she was quite simply a force, as we've heard a couple of times today already. Having moved into her parents' basement suite with her then young daughter, Amelia, school and motherhood kept her busy, and yet when I reflect on those years, she always had a project, like your mom, or 3 or 4 on the go. Whether it was in the community or at home, she was involved, and her energy and enthusiasm were contagious. She was easily the most self-sufficient person I have ever met. For example, as a single mom on a student budget, when she wanted a terracotta tiled floor, she just painted one. And the next time I showed up, wallpaper, I can stencil that. When she wanted a new sofa on a budget, she just reupholstered the one she had. I was like, I didn't know you know how to reupholster. Neither did I. She got things done. And like the rest of us, she wasn't perfect, but she was easily one of the best. She was generous, but hesitant to take much in return. Sorry. She was quick to lend her support, but she made you work to try and help her. And as many of you know, she was stubborn. None more than you, Sheila. Her confidence and determination, as she called her stubbornness, were met in equal proportion by her joy for life and her quiet generosity. Melinda was that rare kind of friend that consistently showed up. She would tell you the things you needed to hear when you most needed to hear them. She would hold your hand and have your back. even when you were 2,100 miles away, in my case. And I always knew I could count on her to help get the metaphorical bum off my butt. And I miss her dearly, as I know we all do.
Thanks, Lori. Eleanor Roosevelt said it best. Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints on your heart. And Melinda left many, many hearts fuller with her acts of kindness and generosity. And I'm certain everybody in this room probably has a story of how Melinda went out the extra mile for somebody. And Melinda took pedagogy to the next level. It wasn't just a job for her. It was a calling. It was her vocation. Jim Pierce saw firsthand how his friend and colleague positively impacted those around her. And Jim is going to share his tribute now.
There we go. Thanks, everybody, for allowing me to say a few words. I'm going to start off with the ability to pursue greatness. That was Melinda. If you know a little bit about me, one of my skills is to find people that are way better than me to work around. Because if you find those people, you have the ability to change many, many lives. And Melinda was that person. And when I had a chance as principal of Mission Senior Secondary, which, if you know that school, it's pretty busy. There's lots of things going on. It's never dull, but it was a great fit for Melinda. So when she was an English teacher there, social studies teacher, I saw something in her that I just had to have her as a vice principal. Because I knew if I could get her to that level, she could change even more lives than she did in the classroom. And she changed a ton of lives. That pursuit of greatness for her in the classroom was unbelievable. And she always said to me, I've got to make the guys read a bit more. Boys just don't read. I said, yeah, right. You're looking at one of them. And she pursued that really hard. So when she became principal, the ability for her to spread her wealth of knowledge, spread her desire to get everybody to read and be part of English was from the science guys who hated reading, the math guys that wouldn't read, and she was about literacy, and she just kind of just molded them to get everybody to read. And I knew I had an amazing person. I basically told her, the school's yours. Do what you need to do in order for it to change. And so she went on her way. And the ability for her to have people listen to her along the journey was amazing. She had a great English department that she worked with, and then she pursued the English team to get the science guys to actually learn how to read a textbook so they could help kids actually learn some of those words in science. But then on a global aspect, for her in the school, she wanted to make sure it was safe all the time. So I've got a couple little stories that resonated with me when I was asked to speak. And as you can see on the front of the program, she was an impeccable dresser. Now, when you become a vice principal, you're thinking, well, maybe I get to dress up a little bit more now that I'm administration and all that. So Melinda, she wore some fine clothes, some nice shoes, maybe a little high, but her and I, a little difference in height. And anyways, one morning, there was a gentleman that went through the school, not one of those savory types of people that were probably into some no good. And her office was next to mine, and all I heard was, hey, Jim, I got this guy. Got this guy. Okay, what's happening? So I come flying out of my office. She comes flying out of our office. Now, you got to think about this. She's in 3-inch high heels, screaming out of the office. And if you know the office, it kind of goes out onto the foyer and then into the parking lot. And here, like, I didn't even get out of my seat. And here she is through the foyer, out the front doors. And now we have a brick wall that's probably higher than the stage here. In those 3-inch high heels, she catapulted up on that ledge and gone. And she got him. She got him, welcomed him back into the school, and we had the police called. Where did that come from? She goes, I got lots you don't know yet. All right, this is good. I like this. A bit of an athlete. She's showing her athleticism. This is amazing. So then, I don't know, a year later, another guy goes through the school, and we're centrally located, so we have some people that go through the schools. And she says, I'm on it, Jim. I said, okay. So away we go down the hallway, and the hallway's a long way. So if you know me too, I'm the worst walker. I am so slow. Not a great runner either, but she's really fast. And so she's going down the hallway. I'm kind of behind her, but I'm on my phone because I think he's going to go out the back door. So I got my automotive guy, Richard Wimmer is his name. And I phoned him and I said, Richard, there's a guy coming down there. I think he's a lot of trouble. We need to stop him. So away we go, chasing him down the hallway, out the back door. And I looked up, oh my God. Here's Richard. He's kind of forced the guy down on the ground. And here's Melinda, again, in her 3-inch high heels, foot on his crotch. Now that's good. That is amazing. And the guy screaming, get her off of me, get her off of me. No. What do you have in your pocket? It's just my phone. Melinda goes, maybe not a phone, maybe something else. I'm not moving. And it was amazing. Finally, police come, we get him arrested, and away we go. I said, where do you learn that jam? She goes, again, you haven't seen it all yet. I had so much fun with Melinda at the school. We did so much together, and it was a blast. When I got to come over to the house, we had so much fun. She's a dog lover. Well, I'm a bit of a dog lover. For me today, she's given me so much to define who I am today. It's not a sad day for me. It's sad that she's gone. But man, she left so much behind for people here. And I surrounded myself with a great woman who had it all, who did it all, and never left anything unturned. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yep, the deeds that you do, they pass away with you, but the deeds that you do for others remain your legacy. Well, as you know, it wasn't only textbooks and cookbooks and seed catalogs that excited Melinda. She loved gardening books and art books and storybooks. Yep, Melinda loved books. She always had a few on the go, and she gravitated to people who shared her love of reading, joining book clubs because she just really enjoyed discussing a variety of topics and listening to different perspectives. In the words of P.J. Wodehouse, there is no surer foundation for a beautiful friendship than mutual taste in literature. And Catherine MacDonald and Melinda share that love of reading. And Catherine will now come up and share how their friendship grew through the pages.
It was, in fact, Melinda who initiated our book club about 18 years ago. While Gloria and I were having tea at Melinda's, eating Christmas cookies, Melinda said, "I think we should start a book club." And what a great idea it was. There were 6 of us. Gloria Burrows, who's here, Melinda, who of course is no longer with us, but she's still here, Georgina Marsom, Wendy Wilson, Catherine Nelson, who couldn't make it today because she lives in Smithers, and me, Catherine McDonald. And because she was so supportive, sometimes Sheila was our honorary non-reading member. Yeah, you were. We originally called ourselves the Walking Women Book Club because we all lived within walking distance of each other and would pick each other up along the way. After we realized we had formed a beautiful sisterhood, we just called ourselves the Beautifuls. Very modest. We often paired the chosen book with food to match. Georgina started this with the memoir, Are You Somebody, by Irish author Nuala O'Fallon, who had recently passed away. Georgina decided on an Irish wake was called for. So she served us Irish whiskey, Dublin cheese, and Irish stew. When we read Anna Karenina, we had Russian borscht. The novel The Help was paired with Southern fried chicken and chocolate pie. Some of you get that if you've read the book. But we hadn't just created a book group. We had formed a circle of deep friendship and intimate trust. We ate sumptuous meals, drank lots of wine, and spilled our guts, and occasionally discussed books. We celebrated each other's joyful times and cried with each other's heartbreaks. It was indeed a special era in all our lives, one we will treasure always. Melinda was the initiator and the central core of our group. She was the leader of the Beautifuls, and we will forever be grateful to her for this creation of our circle of love. Farewell, our beautiful Melinda. We love you. Okay, thanks. And now, can I just go on and read my other one? Okay. I get the pleasure of reading another short piece as Melinda, my dear friend, my personal dear friend. When I first encountered Melinda and Amelia, they presented like a Renoir painting. They were sitting on a lovely blanket under a shady tree on a warm summer day in Heritage Park. A petite, blue-eyed mother with her darling, dreamy-eyed 4-year-old daughter, Amelia. I was introduced to them by our mutual friend, David Wyatt, Amelia's chosen dad, and subsequently grandpa to her 3 children, Alice, Astrid, and Arthur. My own daughter, Allison, who's here today too, often babysat Amelia, and from there, Melinda and I formed our long, enduring friendship. When Sheila came into her life, I spent many glorious days with them in Indigo, swimming in the pool, going for date milkshakes, and dancing in bars. Well, Melinda and I would dance in bars. Sheila went to the casino. So it worked out for all of us. As Melinda's health became compromised, we were also grateful to her spouse, Sheila, for the tender, loving care she demonstrated for our beloved girl. I'm going to tell you two little stories that depict different sides of Melinda. Story one. Quite a few years back, Melinda had an education conference in San Francisco, and I went along for the ride. I don't know if you knew that, Jim Pierce. When I got up the first morning, lo and behold, there were armed police at the cordoned-off entrance to our hotel. I heard whispered rumors that Barack Obama was going to be staying at the hotel, thus all the security. When I left the hotel that morning, I was not allowed back to our room until Melinda returned in late afternoon. When she did get back, and I told her about the locking out thing, she marched up to the reception desk and gave them a proper feisty blasting. "This is ridiculous," she loudly stated. "My friend couldn't get back in our room all day and has blisters on her feet from walking the streets. And those armed guards at the door, we're from Canada. We don't do guns. So I want you to find us another upscale hotel and call a taxi to bring us there." And they did. Well, who would mess with this little firecracker? We spent the rest of the night laughing about it and drinking cocktails at the top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel. Little story number two. Many years ago, before I found my wonderful partner, Richard, I was suffering terribly from a man-induced heartbreak. As I blubbered out all my hurts that had been forced upon me by the man, Melinda took me in her loving arms and said, "I hate that guy." Who doesn't need a good friend like that? I miss you every day, dear sweet Melinda. So much love, Catherine. Thanks, Paula. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks to the book club. So, Amelia, I know it's really hard to find words to express your loss. Losing your mom is probably one of the deepest sorrows. So I'd like you to come up and say a few words. Just know that you're held in love by everybody here.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that there's so many people here for my mom. She's so missed, and so many people that I know she hasn't seen in a while, or I haven't seen in a while. And as so many other people have said, she never did anything just a little bit. She would decide to do something, and it would be, she all in, like over the top, all in. Me and my friend Renee were talking about the things that she did when we were kids and stuff she'd do for us. Like, one year I decided I wanted to have a murder mystery birthday party. You know, there's like the kits you get and little scripts and everybody's given a part. And it was kind of a Mexican restaurant that it took part in, or something, a Mexican theme anyway. And she decided she was going to turn our house into a Mexican restaurant. We went to specialty stores in Vancouver. She burned dozens of candles, making, you know, the wine bottle candle holder. She got decorations for wall drapes. She made authentic, homemade, real Mexican food, and just, it was incredible. And this was I 12, 13? Like, and it's just, when I decided to move out, even though it was probably crazy, she supported me entirely. She kept my cat until I was settled. She put my cat on an airplane for me. Like, who does that? And then when I realized that I needed to move back home, zero hesitation, I called her. I said, Mom, I need to come home. And she said, for the weekend or for good? And again, she said, okay, you have a one-way ticket in 2 days. And me and Alice got to stay with her till Alice was a year old. Like, just... But just everything was, she'd give up absolutely anything in a second for anybody. Like Lori was saying, like, zero questions. Somebody needs something, we're gonna make it happen, no matter what. She decided that she was gonna go back to school. She was gonna go back and do, like a little diploma program, and she ended up getting a master's degree. Like, you don't do anything just a little bit. She's taught us to do the same. Me and my kids, we have definitely inherited her determination, was that it? Yeah. And I think it served us well. We decide something, and that's just kind of what's gonna happen. And I'm so thankful for it. She's incredible, and it's been a huge hole without her. Yeah. We are really thankful we have Sheila now, because I don't know how we would have made it through the last few years without Sheila. Thank you. Yeah. Alice, did you want to come up? No?
Thanks, Amelia. Your mother's spirit lives on through you and through your children. So every time you show compassion and courage, you carry her legacy on. Sheila, I remember once Melinda telling me that you'd be willing to wait till she was ready to date. And Melinda responded, why wait? Melinda's ability to open her heart after it was broken is a real testament to her character and her resilience. And as Brené Brown so poignantly states, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. Stepping into a relationship is definitely an act of courage. Melinda's uncertainty was met with Sheila's understanding and patience. It created the emotional safety that helped Melinda reestablish her trust and love. And their love story kind of wrote itself. They align with the desire to build an authentic, grounded, and deeply loving relationship. They came together with curiosity, respect, and a whole lot of joie de vivre. Not promising to be perfect, but just to be present and to listen and be willing to evolve. Love grows deeper when two minds align, two open minds align. So now, Sheila, come on down. I think I should have gone first. Your choice.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody for coming today to help us celebrate Melinda's life and share all of these good stories. And Melinda and I had met several times in the last 25 years, but it was always at an event or out on the town or something. We'd run into each other. We were reintroduced by some close friends about 14 years ago. And we were down in Point Roberts, Washington. I was staying down there, and Melinda, since her childhood, had tried to spend every summer down in Point Roberts because she would go down with Papa, which was her grandfather, and Nana. And Papa, of course, this was long before seatbelts or child seats. They would just pile all of the grandchildren, as long as they were out of diapers, into the car and take them down to Point Roberts for the summer, most of the summer. And they would stop at one of the stores on the way, and whether it was, I can't remember what side of the border it was on, but Papa would take his shopping cart through the aisles, and he would send each child out with to go and get something that's on his list. And he would just stand in the middle of the store. And the child would go out and get the whatever it was, and then they had to check in. They had to say, got it, and come back and put it in the buggy, and then he would give them the next one to go out and get. So that's how they did all of their food shopping to go to Point Roberts for the summer. Although I only got to witness last year's of Melinda's time, she had an extraordinary dedication to students in her schools, the staff that she worked with, her administrative colleagues, and the greater community of Mission. She served on several community boards, including SARA, Resources for Women, Literacy in Motion in Mission, and many others that I can't even remember and couldn't find any paperwork on, but I know she was usually sitting on boards all the time. When we met again, we met at Maple Beach, and she was down there with her mom and her sister Michelle. Alice was there, little Alice, 3-year-old Alice, and she was staying there for a few days, and we were walking on the beach for hours, and we were discussing our mutual love of the ocean, and she was an avid kayaker, and I was a boat enthusiast as well, but my boat had to have an engine. So that was the first sort of where we didn't agree on everything. So I said that we should just develop a partnership and start a company where she could go out kayaking and take people out on tours, and we would buy a large motor yacht, and they could set off in the morning, and I'd go fishing and crabbing, and they could come back in the evening and shower and have fresh salmon dinner. And I think she thought I was a bit crazy, but maybe. I think the first, although the first time I mentioned it, it wasn't really something she wanted to do, but then she wrapped her mind around it eventually. In August of 2013, we took possession of the house on Peterson, and we began many chapters of upgrading and renovating to create the home that we have there, which, by the way, please come and join us there after the hall here. There'll be burgers and hot dogs cooking. We had many, many wonderful parties there. We had our wedding there. And it's been a great home to welcome friends and neighbors and all our grandchildren as they came along. And, I don't know how many birthday pool parties we've hosted, but it's got to be a lot. Just had one last Saturday. Yeah. Well, the first rental began in our house on Peterson. I was down in White Rock. I had a house down there, so I was down with the moving truck to load that, and came back and walked in the back door, and Scott and his helper were working with jackhammers. They were breaking up the tile in the kitchen. The people had put tile through the kitchen dining room, and the tile happened to be glued down to linoleum that was exactly the same color and pattern as the tile. So that was a bonus. But when I walked in, the place is just wall-to-wall dust. I couldn't even breathe hardly. And I quickly went through to the other room, and there's Melinda and her family, her sisters, and some of her pals, and they're painting, like furiously, painting. With all of this, they're going like this in front of them so they can see where they're painting. That was our first disagreement. Yeah, I still, Melinda said, well, what's the problem? I said, well, you don't paint when there's so much dust in the air. And she said, oh yeah, it gives it texture. And that's when her nickname, I created her first nickname, which was Get Her Done. We got to get her done. Yeah. And once the house was settled, once the house was pretty much finished, we settled into a routine. She was still teaching, so we owned a home down in Southern California, and I spent most of the winters down there, trying to entice her to retire and to come down and join me in the winter, but she was not going to give up her teaching, which she started quite a bit later than most people do, because she went back to school and did her GED and her bachelor's and then her master's. And I finally got her to pull a plug, and we went over I got a trip organized to Portugal, and it ended up, there were 6 of us that went. And then after we have most of the stuff booked except the tickets, she tells me we only can stay for 2 weeks. And I said, what do you mean we can only stay for 2 weeks? Well, I can't be away from my grandchildren for more than 2 weeks. Yeah. She often said that she wished that we had met earlier in life, and I think that she had some premonition that things were changing. And I, of course, said, no, we're both so stubborn, we're going to live to be 100 at least. One of the ways that Melinda has been described by her friends is that she lived her life, she lived like she really meant it. She lived her life like she really meant it, and that was all the time, 24/7. Well, not when she was sleeping, but... Kayaking was another adventure that we started out on, and she had built herself, she had a small kayak built down in Oregon, and it weighed about, 24 pounds. So she would just have to dip the paddle in and she'd be gone. It was so light and she was so small. And I was always way behind in this big lug. And she was always doodling around, waiting for me to catch up. And we had a bit of competition in our relationship. And I got weary of being behind all the time, so I did a little research on the internet. And next time we were out on the water, I let her continue to stay way ahead of me, and I was just waiting for the perfect conditions, and the wind picked up behind me, and I flipped my sail out and went whipping past her. The look on her face, it was was so gratifying. But, of course, I wasn't truly kayaking. This was cheating with a sail. That's right. She was ever the purest. Yeah. We've honored Melinda's legacy by creating an endowment with the University of the Fraser Valley in her name for in the School of Education for single parents that are going to go back to school and do what she did. And it's already been awarded for this year, and it's a wonderful thing. Will help other people carry on.
Sheila, as other people have said, we're all really grateful for your kindness and your patience, and of course the compassion that you showed Melinda, especially in the past few years. It's a real testament to your love and your character. So for the closing ritual, I would like to make a few statements. There's 5 altogether. And it's kind of aspects that will memorialize a bit of what was spoken about today. I call them legacy statements. And so once I make the statement, I'd like everybody to respond with, Melinda, your light lives on. First one. Melinda, your determination is truly commendable. Your unwavering perseverance in the face of challenges serves to inspire us all. And Melinda, your light lives on. Melinda, your kindness made people feel welcome. Your generosity made them feel valued. And your compassion made them feel truly seen. Your loving actions transformed lives. Melinda, your light lives on. Melinda, the way that you sought out new experiences and knowledge encourages others to step outside their comfort zones and see the world through a broader lens. Melinda, your light lives on. Melinda, through your openness and acceptance, you've shown us how powerful it is to welcome differences. In doing so, you've helped us to grow into a more inclusive and compassionate community. Melinda, your light lives on. Melinda, you gave freely, offering your heart, your time, and your care, showing us what it truly means to love others well. Your actions taught us that love is the ultimate risk, but it's also the ultimate reward. Melinda, your light lives on. Thank you. Peter Stroop writes, legacy is not leaving something behind for other people. It's leaving something in other people. So thank you to Melinda for all of your gifts. And may we all live by her example and go out and live and love well. And I would like to thank Sheila and the Dempster family for trusting me with this ceremony. And thanks to all the speakers for their heartfelt, heartwarming speeches, tributes. And thank you, everybody, for coming today. And we'd like you to continue sharing stories with each other over light refreshments. Cool down maybe for a little breeze, but light refreshments will be served, and please join us. Don't forget to sign the guest book, too. There's one at the corner at the back. Okay? Live well. Thank you.